was rough and I thought I might die, I was thinking of you. So I told a lie, called the cops from outside, I was thinking of you. Watched as they came to haul him away, I was thinking of you. Drove my car to a field and broke down, I was thinking of you. You're my love, you're my love, and you're the one good thing in my life. My sweet love, trying and hard are my days without you. My sweet love, wasted are the hours in my nights without you. Try as I might, I can't remember my life before you. It was full of depression and strife, I was searching for you. And I'll tell you a measure of love, I will tell you a measure of love. It's when you think of someone, when you know you might die. I got a call yesterday, he's pleading guilty and going away. Don't need that time off from work to go down to the courthouse, he's going away. But what's gonna happen to a man who is hurt deep inside once they throw him away? With no help for the pain that he hides from, with drugs they just throw him away. What will become of him now? Who will reach out to him now? That the ones who could help him just threw him away. When I was robbed and I thought I might die, I was thinking of you.
And I see you What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knox Talks. So, tonight's guest, with 16 months clean, tonight's guest found it within himself to not only start a treatment center, but build an organization that has more than one venture, including a clothing line and a music contract. That organization is Step One Ministries. And here he is out here killing it. Marc.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you very much
for
having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, man. So we have been talking over these past days. Why don't you just start from the beginning? I understand that you have had struggles with mental health from a very young age, ADHD, to name one. What was that like growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. It was challenging in the school system, especially. I wasn't able to really focus on the content that was being taught. I was always acting up, acting out, very loud, very outgoing, and I got in trouble a lot in school, and yeah, it was pretty challenging. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of effect did that have on the home life? Was there a lot of discipline going on?
Yeah, it was tough too, right? I don't think my parents knew how to handle it. Sometimes I was a lot, constantly in trouble, and it's sometimes kids can change, but for me, it was really difficult because of the fact that I had ADHD and it was undiagnosed. So definitely
so
made
it. You and your family didn't know that you had ADHD. There was just something going on, and
yeah, basically by the time I did get diagnosed, it was probably 15, 16. Yeah.
Okay. So was that a welcome diagnosis?
I think at that point it was almost like a last ditch effort because I had started self-medicating. I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking, and I found that it really calmed me down and helped with the anxiety. So I ended up getting on medication, but I ended up just using and abusing it along with drugs and alcohol.
Okay, so that's what motivated you to try drugs the first time. Like, were you smoking marijuana and experimenting with drugs before you knew you had ADHD?
Yeah, for sure. So by the time I was 14, I had started experimenting with weed. Shortly after, I started drinking. And by the time I was diagnosed, I'd already been smoking weed, every day and drinking regularly on weekends.
Yeah. So I remember when we were talking the other day, we came to this idea. Why do you think you navigated towards drug culture? Why did you think those were the cool kids? Like, why didn't you think the jocks were the cool kids or the band kids,
Yeah, I was giving some thought to that question, and I believe for me, it was more about that was the group that I could fit into, because as long as I drank or did drugs, then I belonged and I was accepted. So it was a bit of a means to an end in a sense.
So were you all in right away? Or was it just starting out at as a weekend thing? And
pretty quickly, yeah. I think from the first time I drank, smoked weed, probably within 3 months, I was smoking 4 or 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm. And I understand there was a lot of women from a young age too. How old were you when that started?
Around 15 as well. I really looked to the outside world to fill that void, and women was part of that for sure.
Did you realize that at the time? Did you realize that you were looking outward, or was that just seemed like the thing to do because it made you feel good?
Yeah, I think it was just what made me feel good in the moment and just the instant gratification. And looking back, I can see it was just an escape because I wasn't really content in my own skin and in my own flesh. So I always was looking for the outside world to give me some sort of affirmation or approval or attention, and change the way that I was feeling in the moment.
Yeah. So did you get through school? Did you get through high school?
Yeah, barely, but yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. What did that look like when you came out of school? Did you start into a career right away, or did you?
Yeah. So once I graduated, I took an extra semester to finish and scraped by with 50s, and then I got into selling cars, and I started my own multi-level marketing business. So I did that between 18 and 20.
Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, that offered a lot of personal growth during that time. Because I'm familiar with the MLM that you were working with, and how did your substance use affect your relationship with the people you were working with?
Yeah. Eventually, it really deteriorated. I ended up relapsing, and it really negatively affected the people that I was working with, my mentors, and then also the people that I had introduced to the organization. I was kind of looked up to as a leader, and I think a lot of them felt let down.
Mm-hmm. And so you did that until because you're only 25 now, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was like, that's just crazy to me. You're so young, man. So after that, so you stepped away from that, right? That didn't completely burn. You just stepped away and decided to go another direction, correct?
Yeah. Well, I ended up relapsing, so
Yeah.
going really back heavily into the drinking and the drugs.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. And after that, you got into jewelry or diamonds. I remember you said, I'm like, what did you do after that? And you said, I sold diamonds. And immediately, I see Leonardo DiCaprio selling blood diamonds right away. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so what finally did it for you? Like what happened? Was it one incident? Because I know that there was a few relapses, right? And I remember that you had one incident where you woke up and you had enough, but other things happened after that still.
Yeah. So when I was 22, so 20 to 22 just went by in a blur, more or less. And one morning I just woke up and I knew in my heart I was born for more. And that's when I really decided that it was time to get help. And that's when I say I really entered into recovery is at 22.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but you were telling me a story of something that happened, and I'm trying to remember for the life of me. Oh man. There was a few more relapses, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I entered in at 22. I started finding recovery in the 12 steps, through NA, and I worked a set of steps, and I took the program really seriously, and I had a lot of spiritual growth from that. Built some really good friendships, and
Mm-hmm.
some of those people are still some of my closest friends today. So I only ever speak
Mm-hmm.
positive about that program, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. In terms of the relapse, I still didn't do a lot of the inner healing, I believe, was the piece that was missing for me. And I didn't really come into a relationship with God. In a sense, I started forming that in the 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up really going down the wrong road again, relapsing for about a 3 month bender. And it was pretty aggressive, like a lot of cocaine, a lot of MDMA, a lot of liquor. I went out to Kelowna actually on a road trip and stayed there for about 3 weeks or so. When I had gotten back, I was pretty heavily into the cocaine and I was really addicted. So I ended up deciding that starting to distribute would be a good way to go. So I actually had intentions to pick up to distribute, and I got sold a bag of chalk. So I feel like that was God really protecting me. And then that night again, I actually went to the ATM, pulled out more money to pick up again, and then I got my car impounded. So 2 times that evening, like I really believe God intervened in my life and had his hand on my life. And 2 days later, I was actually in rehab again. So while this was all unfolding, I was really spiraling and I was scared, but at the same time, I needed cocaine. So I was making these decisions and doing these things while at the same time calling into rehab in the morning, keeping my spot online. But I truly believe that if I did get the amount that I was looking to pick up, and I did start using and distributing, I probably wouldn't have been in rehab 2 days later. So that was a really scary experience there. And looking back, really, I'm grateful that I didn't end up going down that route. So ended up getting back into recovery there, and ended up clean for about 9 months again. But I still, I didn't come into that relationship, with God and, my personal belief in Jesus Christ. And I hadn't done the professional route in terms of having a psychologist and really starting to evaluate some of the things I internalized when I was younger, like I was never good enough, that I never would be good enough, that I didn't belong, that I didn't have worth and value. I really unpacked a lot of that stuff, worked through a lot of that stuff that goes on in addiction, the trauma and the experiences that really damaged my psychology and my spirit. So after that relapse, that relapse, I was really suicidal. My mental health had just deteriorated. I was depressed. I could barely get out of bed. I was working at GMG at the time, selling diamonds, and it was literally just work, get home, sleep, work, get home, sleep. And I did that for months, and it was just a living hell. And I ended up going back to the drinking and the drugs because I just wanted an escape. I just wanted temporary relief. And I knew the drugs and the drinking wouldn't help, but I didn't have any other options. It felt like, so I ended up getting back into rehab again there. And when I was in rehab, they actually, had to take my belt from me, because they were afraid that I was going to self-harm, and I look back at how low that I was, and it's just, I have such a heart for people who struggle with mental health and addictions, because, it's one of those things that we didn't choose it, in a sense, right? Some people make the argument that it's a choice, but at the same time, it's like an addict doesn't want to be an addict, they feel that pain, they feel that suffering. So I want to be able to give them an opportunity to get out of that. And so those are those relapses you had asked about.
Yeah. So when you said you finally started doing the inner healing, now this feeling of not being good enough, was there something that caused that to manifest, or was that something that's just been with you for as long as you can remember?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think that's the root of the masculine soul, right? Do we belong? Are we enough? And we learn to be a man through our relationships with other men. And given the fact that I was always in trouble, and I was a lot of the times I felt belittled and that I didn't belong, I internalized a lot of that, right? I didn't feel affirmed necessarily in my worth, and I constantly looked to fill that void with other things. So a big part of my healing, was looking at the fact that just because I'm a human being and I'm breathing and I have a heartbeat, that makes me worth it. That makes me worthy of love and belonging. And really addressing some of the instances where, I was hurt, I was in toxic relationships, or I hurt people, and realizing that dug that wound even deeper inside of me, and that I used those experiences to, justify my using. And when I started to really see the emotional connection, right? Like, there's a logical, intellectual conversation, but when you actually feel those feelings of worthlessness coming up in your spirit and in your soul, and that they're a lie, that you are worth it, and that you're allowing God and your safe community to affirm you, then that really allows you to get that choice back in your life. But it was definitely a process, and it still is a process. Some days I definitely feel like I'm in over my head, and we're all just trying to do our best, right?
Yeah. So you've made the decision and you've stuck with it. How long were you clean before you started in on this project that you're working on now?
So step one has been about 3 months now. We had some formative ideas and some initial board meetings, late in 2020. And 2021 is when we really started rolling and really started moving forward, and things really started picking up momentum. So I was clean for about a year before I had started Step One.
Okay. And what now? I know I already mentioned the clothing line and the music label, but tell me a little bit. Now, I may have said it wrong, and I apologize for that.
No
Is
worries.
it a contract that you have? You have a music contract?
So a label.
So it's a label.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Like what? Explain to me what a label is, like, and how did you form one so quickly?
Yeah. So I got a lawyer to do the corporation. So with that, we can sign artists and, help them monetize their music. We have 2 producers and engineers, who do, all of that. Yeah. And, we have our own kind of marketing platform, and, obviously, like, the Spotify, Streamlabs and everything like that, and SoundCloud and YouTube. And, it's amazing what you can do online, and even like what you're doing with Hard Knocks is just phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? And I was always passionate about music, and I believe music can touch people, at a very deep level and at a soul level. Yeah, so it's music with a meaning is what we call it, and we look for artists who have the same values as Step One and want to make a difference in the world. And yeah.
Right on, man. So what kind of programming do you run there? Like, is it faith-based? Is it program like 12-step based? Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is faith-based. We're open to all faith.